Oh, no, I'm not going to pass over my people for no goddamn body. In the name of no religion, in the name of no spirituality, in the name of no discipline, in the name of nothing. Well,
greetings, family. Greet you in the words of peace. Shalom, assalamu alaikum, hotep, alafia, and as always, race first. This episode of GARVEYISM Versus, we're going to deal with black laws versus black's law. A look at law, government, and nation. We want to give a good understanding into black law and black's law, why they were made, who they were made for, and how they can help or hurt us as a people. First, let's take a look at what is Black's Law. Black's Law Dictionary is the most widely used law dictionary, originally written by Henry Campbell Black in 1891. It's now in its 11th edition, edited by Brian A. Gardner. It is not the law, however, it merely defines it. Reading the inside cover, you see exactly what it contains and from where. The principal terms of international, constitutional, ecclesiastical, and commercial law, and medical jurisprudence, with a collection of legal maxims, numerous select titles from the Roman, modern civil, Scotch, French, Spanish, and Mexican law, and other foreign systems, and a table of abbreviations. Moving forward. Legalese, the specialized language of the legal profession, or the language of legal documents. You see here Black's Law Dictionary. The first edition was written in 1891. The current edition, the 11th edition, was written in 2019. One of the other law dictionaries that's used is Bouvier's Law Dictionary. Basically, when looking at laws or statutes, follow the plain meaning or ordinary usage of the terms in the text. If that is in question, unless Congress has provided a specific definition, consider dictionaries of the era in which the statute was enacted. So, you see here we're looking at American law, how it was, these are the founding documents of all of the laws of the land that we live in currently. And we know President General Michael R. Duncan says we can never expect a justice from an unjust system. When looking at this timeline, you can see where the laws of this land come from moving forward. Again, the plain meaning rule. Remember the statutory canons. When looking at laws or statutes, follow the plain meaning or ordinary usage in the term of the text. Only if Congress has provided a specific definition, then do you consider dictionaries of the era in which that statute was enacted. So when we're looking at civiliter mortuus, a term that you see a lot when we're talking about black meaning death, and we have to stop calling ourselves black, and we need to change our status from black, and that's not a nationality because it means death or civiliter mortuus. It means that you're civilly dead under law, okay? So let's take a look at that. So we see here, civil death, or Latin civiliter mortuus, is the loss of all or almost all civil rights by a person due to a conviction or a felony. Now that's a key point right there. I want you to remember that part because it's due to a conviction or felony, according to the plain meaning rule, and this definition comes out of Blacks. Or due to an act by the government of a country that results in that loss of civil rights. Persons convicted of crimes against the state or legally incompetent because of mental disability fall under this category. In the U.S., disenfranchisement of felons, meaning the restriction of voting, has been called a form of civil death. and collateral consequences, meaning employment restrictions. So currently, that's what we're dealing with when we talk about civil death in the modern era. But in medieval Europe, felons lost all civil rights upon their conviction. That civil death could lead to actual death because anyone could kill and injure a felon with impunity. Going back a little further, you see under the Holy Roman Empire, a person declared civilly dead was referred to as a Vogelfrei, free as a bird, and could even be killed since they were completely outside the law. So, these are the ancient times, but when following the textual canons and the plain meaning rule, civil death currently means loss of almost or all civil rights due to a conviction or felony. And this is the way that it has been portrayed to us currently. So this right here is what we're calling jurisprudence. We want to make sure we have knowledge of the law. Moving forward. Knowledge of legal terms and their definitions can save you from an embarrassment. The same embarrassment that Rudy Giuliani just suffered in the recent court case. He didn't understand what strict scrutiny meant. Strict scrutiny is defined as a form of judicial review that courts use to determine the constitutionality of certain laws. Jurisprudence. So we have established that Black's law is not even really law. It's a collection of legal maxims, jurisprudence from around the world, not even just here locally. Here's one of the laws they happen to have defined in Black's law, dealing with admiralty law, maritime law. Notice it comes from Rhodian customary law or Greek law. Some say that the law of the sea holds more authority than the law of the land. And if so, where did that concept come from? Where does that authority even come from? Some say these are ancient African laws, but are they really? This is the unjust system of laws that govern the seas upon which slave ships were commissioned. Don't forget, this is the beginning of Western law, maritime law. They're in the Mediterranean Sea under Greek. Moving forward. If Greece began the law of the sea, then Rome began what we now know to be the Western law of the land. All right, you see jus civile, jus gentium, all right? This is the Holy Roman Empire. All right, jus gentium, jus civile, jurisprudence, all right? Notice who's where, all right? Now, we do know that there was Black rulers of Rome and Greece. All right. However, Black rulers of Rome and other countries like Scotland, France, England, etc., they still followed the law of the land at that time. Just like the Americans now, here in America, Black Americans, if we were to rise to power, for example, Barack Obama, all right, and others, all right, follow the law of the land at the time. Just because they're Black doesn't mean that they're following Black law.
During Reconstruction, we held every major position you can imagine. From the 41st Congress to the 56th Congress, we were involved in every one of the congressional systems or the congressional process from that 41st to the 56th. We were mayors, we were judges, we were sheriffs, we were senators, we were congressmen, and even B.K. Bruce of the Treasury Department, a Black man, had his signature on all paper money in the United States of America. So it made no difference that a redneck camel breath, snuff dipping, tobacco chewing, straw chewing, beer belly, overall wearing, peckerwood, hated niggas, every cracker in order to buy anything had to spend money with a Black man's signature during Reconstruction on the paper money. But when white folks got tired of niggas being in political positions of authority over them, they lined up armed white men at the door of Congress. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner of the AME Church, armed guards stood at the door of Congress and would not permit Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, a black elected public official and a congressman, to enter the halls of Congress. They stood at the door of the mayor's office. They lined armed guards up at the sheriff's office, a black sheriff elected to be the sheriff of the town. But crackers stood at the door with their guns and said, "No more nigger sheriffs in this town." And brought another big beer-bellied peckerwood with overalls on, who was the new sheriff, Big Bubba. And they said, "Nigga, Big Bubba's the sheriff here in town now. No more nigger sheriff. And if you don't get away from here, we're going to arrest you." Judges were unseated. That's right. Senators were unseated. And night riders, Ku Klux Klan, and disgruntled, angry, egotistical white men decided that it was a period that had to be stopped, that blacks were infringing on the rights of white people. Does it sound familiar? They're talking about the angry white male today. And under charges of exaggerated corruption in politics, the poor black man was swept from political positions. It looked like a period of political prosperity. But when the white man got tired of black people being in these political positions, he drove us from these political positions. Possible to defend white law and not break black law. The two are diametrically opposed, 180 degrees different from each other. You cannot talk out of both sides of your mouth. It's impossible to do that. You cannot say we must get away from the color game and the skin game when you are black and your color and your melanin is what marks you and hooks you with the universe and links you with the spiritual, divine, universal, and cosmological order of things. You cannot say we must get away from that and say that you are defending divine law and defending black law.
All right, here is the Moorish Europe law. When they say that the Moors ruled Europe, all right, the Moors ruled Spain, right? Was that black law? Let's take a look at it. We know that when the Moors ruled Europe, they ruled using caliphates. Since the beginning of the expansion of Islam, all caliphates ruled under Quranic Sharia law. Okay, see the Quran here, one of the oldest Qurans I could find there. This here is the dirham of the Umayyad Caliphate. This is their money. All right, moving forward. This here is the Reconquest, or what people know now as the Spanish Inquisition. This is when the Holy Romans, all right, decide they want the land back that they had, and they take over rule. All right, you see down here the last strong fort at Granada. A lot of us know that area and that part of the story. All right, so this is when the Holy Roman Empire, Holy Roman Catholic Church, decided to push out the Moors from Europe. So we understand that Black's law is a collection of all these different types of laws as far as the legal maxims, their definitions, their understandings, and their theory. That's jurisprudence, right? So understanding all of those things that we just looked at was not technically Black law. We move forward talking about here, let's see, international law, right? The Roman Empire established an early conceptual framework for justgention, all right? The law of nations. When we say the Roman Empire, all right, we know that we're still talking about them pushing out the Moors from Spain, reestablishing the Holy Roman Empire that they had previously. Now they're added to Catholicism. All right. Samuel von Pufendorf, 1672. You notice the bold, one of the earliest scholars to expand international law beyond the European Christian nation. So we see here, there was no international law yet, as far as the rest of the world was concerned. Between 1492, okay, when he sailed the ocean blue, so to speak, that we knew about, because he actually sailed it before that, okay, there was no international law beyond European Christian nations. All right, the things that they had after that or before that was different. Okay, so now, a brief history lesson, different types of governments. Clearly, anarchy, nobody rules. A monarchy, for example, would be Egypt, Benin, and Guinea in the south of Africa, the early Zulus. The dictatorship would be like the Romans. An oligarchy-style government would be Greece, with the aristocrats running everything. A junta would be a military government. And a democracy, it's like Haiti and the U.S., all right? Constitutional with a president. You could have a direct democracy or a representative democracy. But these are the different type of government, different type of law that we understand as far as Western law is concerned at this point. All right, moving forward. The four elements of a sovereign state. You need to have population, territory, sovereignty, and government. All right, population, we need to have people. All right, territory, you need to clearly mark your land. Sovereignty means the full right and power of a governing body. All right. In political theory, it means a substantive term that designates supreme legitimate authority. And in international law, sovereignty is the exercise of power by a state. All right. The four main roles of government you see there on the right: making laws, protecting the state, keeping order, and providing services. These are the elements of a state or a nation. Here is the way the United States legal system or nation is governed. So we examine Black's law and how that breaks down. What is Black law?
When the Cushites invaded Egypt and created the mighty 25th dynasty, they improved Egypt. They put Egypt's house in order, and they gave Egypt her last walk in the sun. Here was a case where the invader did some good. The invasion was not really an invasion in the true sense. The Cushites from the south were relatives of the Egyptians. They were African relatives invading the house of the relative and telling the relative, put your house in order before the foreigners come back here and take over both of us. Because those in the south was just as much of the north as the others. And when they invaded, the question of the three great generals that invaded Castor, Pianki, Tahaka was, are you obeying the old religion? Are you true to the great religions of the river? And they asked them, are you obeying the laws and the moral laws laid down by the last great goddess of the Nile Valley, the woman goddess Maya?
We know that the last native rulers of Kemet followed Maya. So that's 30 dynasties into Kemet's history. And we know King Nectanebo we know followed Mayat. We see this artifact here with the Mayat figure on it from his time frame. You see the Uraeus on his helmet there. You see him being protected by the god Horus, the Uraeus, and the double helmet. And you see here that he was betrayed by the mentor of Rhodes. Let's just take a look at that for a second. Do you remember that word, Rhodes? Of course. From Rhodian customary law, from Greek maritime law. Take as long as you need with that. Moving forward. What is black law? The first black republic in the world. Was when Toussaint Louverture drafted the Constitution for the first black republic in 1801. Moving forward. What else is black law? On August 13th, 1920, 20,000 members of the UNIA-ACL defined the phenomena in such a way as to declare their own rights and have that phenomena produce a result. Part of that result is the red, black, and green flag in Declaration 39. The people assembled that day acted to openly and deliberately declare themselves as having pride, dignity, nobility, and self-respect sufficient that the respect of others is not necessary. The Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World provided us rights and respect not because the United States Supreme Court said so, but because its signatories and drafters said so. Were the human beings who produced this document not endowed with rights and respect, said document could not exist. Ashe. We take a look at that there. We understand that that's part of that sovereignty that we were talking about. Moving on. You see here another example. We believe in the supreme authority of our race in all things racial. Black law. That we believe the Negro, like any other race, should be governed by the ethics of civilization and therefore should not be deprived of any of those rights or privileges common to any other human being. Signed into law.
I believe in freedom and independence. I believe in separation and independence. A nation of our own. That's right. A nation of our own. That's the book.
Moving forward. Definition of nation. The fact or status of being a nation. National identity or independence. Or a large body of people united by common descent, history, culture, or language, inhabiting a particular country or territory. So we see several definitions here on the screen. These are different type of nations, different type of categories that the black law that we are speaking of now under the Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World actually fit under. Micronations, microstates, mini-states, but more specifically a stateless nation. Let's take a look at the bold print. A stateless nation is a nation that does not possess its own state and is not the majority population in any state, nation state. Moving down, nations without a state are classified as what? Fourth world nations. Some stateless nations were always a stateless nation dominated by another nation. Fourth world nations are subpopulations existing in a first world country, but living with the living standards of those of a third world or developing country. This is jurisprudence. These are definitions. No emotion. So we see here the four elements of a sovereign state. When we deal with the UNIA-ACL Pan-African government of the world, is that a nation? Is that a sovereign state? Well, we just showed that we do have a population, 20,000 Africans from 40 countries around the world sent delegates, Ashe, to sign into law what we just saw. It's our Declaration of Rights of Negro Peoples of the World, our Constitution, which both make up our laws. If you look over here on the side here, we created a system to protect the state and keep order, and we provide services clearly through the Black Cross Nursing. We see sovereignty. Remember, we were just talking about the fact that what do we say? We believe in the supreme authority of all things racial. That is sovereignty, people. All right. Territory, again, Africa, the motherland of all Negroes. Ashe, these are legal documents, people, and government we just spoke about. So moving on, you see here again, the Constitution law. It says all persons of Negro blood and African descent are ordinary members of the UNIACL. Dues paying members are considered active members or Garveyite. You see that there? So this is law, signed into law in August 1920, a little over 100 years ago. Moving forward, these are other examples of a nation within a nation. Clearly, the different tribes of the Iroquois Nation or Haudenosaunee Confederacy. All right, you see the 5 civilized tribes here, Mohawk or whatever. You notice that they said that there was over 500 treaties made with the American Indian tribes, primarily for land cessation, but also 500 treaties were also broken. All right, but here you go, evidence of nations within a nation. So how does our government work? This is the basic structure of the UNIACL government of the world. We are currently a direct democracy where the people vote and are directly involved in the actual governing of the nation. So you see to the right here, the people, the local divisions, vote for President General, and the President General governs via parent body with the Assistant President Generals, the other generals on the cabinet, the HEC, etc. Here, you see our illustrious lineage of our 11 President Generals. President General Marcus Garvey, President General James Stewart, President General William Sherrill, President General Thomas Harvey, President General Charles James, President General Reginald Maddox, President General Dr. Marcus Garvey Jr., President General Redmond Battle, President General E. Mwali Muji, President General Senghor Jawara Baye, and President General the Honorable Michael R. Duncan. Ashe. So just looking again at the word black, because remember we talking about black and can we use this dealing with black meaning death or things like that, and there's a lot of different confusion around that. We want to make sure we solidify that here. You see here, Ahmad Tulum in 1884, it was written that his son had 1,000 black guards wearing black cloaks and black turbans, so that a watcher could fancy them to be a black sea spreading over the face of the earth, because of the blackness of their color, their skin color, and their garments, with the glitter of their shields chasing on their swords and the helmets under their turbans that really made them a splendid sight. Now, I use this image here clearly from the movie 300. Okay, this was not the type of guards that he had, actually. These were the immortals. However, what they're wearing in here is not what the immortals would have been wearing. And I just thought it interesting that the description of the helmet under the turban, okay, the shining, the glitter of their shields, etc. I think this may have been where they got it from. But notice here the blackness of their color. The reason that was an issue was because those soldiers were Sudanese Moorish warriors. And yeah, they did have turbans. I'm not sure about the mask, etc. But the blackness of their skin was key. Now, they definitely came from Sudan. All right. Shout out to my brother, the Home Team History. Go subscribe, hit him up on Patreon. Definitely. But these were Sudanese warriors. In 884 CE, the Arab slave trade was definitely also in full effect. That's just another random point. However, black people were employed as soldiers and being noted for the blackness of their color. All right. When they talk about the black guards, that's who they're talking about. The people with the black skin. Moving forward. People ask, there's no such thing as Negro land or black land? But yeah, sort of is. There sort of was. All right. So here you see maps from the 1700s that depict Negro land. Now, some people will say, well, that's not necessarily what the natives called that. And you were right. However, these are again legal documents, okay? Because these would have been people in the Navy that would be mapping and writing these these maps, and they knew where the people that they were talking about came from. Okay, and you see here the area that they were talking about was Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. Okay, clearly black people. So, and again, real quick, Sudan is another. This is what they thought this area would have been called. Notice the name Sudan comes from Bilad el Sudan, meaning what? Land of the blacks. Okay. Now, another thing you'll notice is modern day Sudan is not over here. Okay. It's on the other side. However, those people had an opportunity to change the name of their country from Sudan and decided to keep it. So modern day Sudan, they decided to keep that name because it meant land of the blacks. So modern day Sudan and ancient West Africa was the land of the blacks, the black land, or Negro land. There's no getting around it. These are legal documents. This is what the mariners were thinking. So maritime law, y'all say maritime law trumps land law. For those 2 minutes while these maps were out there, this is what those lands were called. Moving forward. Dum diversis, you see here, these were the doctrines of discovery issued by the Pope, okay, to issue people into perpetual slavery that they found around here. So they knew where they were sailing, okay, moving forward. Remember, at this time, there was no international law between nations, okay, moving forward. Here you go again. Now, Cristobal Colon, when he was on his doctrine of discovery, he made it over to this side and they wrote down what they saw. He said he saw people there that were the color of the canary, who were neither black nor white. Now let's look at that. Why in 1492 can he classify people by black or white by their skin color? We'll get to that in a second. But notice that he said that they were the color of the Canarians. We know that the Guanches were the original Canarians from the Canary Islands. Okay, and we just found out in 2017 that they are from official North African origin. Okay, so true lighter, but we know they are of African origin. So black or white, there was already a distinction between the two as far as physical appearance in at least 1492. Here, Bartholomew de las Casas, in the same document, said he saw a black people. Now, there's some debate whether these people that he's talking about seeing, either one of these people talking about seeing, were us. That's not what we're talking about here. What I'm talking about is the term black in the Mariner's Journal, to go back to the Queen, official document. They're writing that they saw black people, all right? And made the distinction between black or white. Now here, why would you make the distinction? Because you got Don Lemon's cousin here, Pedro Nino el Negro, all right? The navigator, the Moorish navigator that was sailing with Columbus. Now, Dr. Clarke has an excellent quote here. He says, Europe had lost the concepts of longitude and latitude, but they learned from the information gathered in Spain and preserved by the Africans and the Arabs, collectively called the Moors, at the University of Salamanca. They had translated the maritime information coming out of China, who was the leading maritime nation at the time. With that maritime knowledge, the European goes out to sea. Now, we also know that these weren't the first voyages of Columbus. He was actually on the voyages to Elmina when the first slave castle, the Elmina Castle, was built. Because he said out of his own words that as man and boy, he sailed up and down the Guinea coast. Now, remember, this is the Guinea coast. Hello. And what would he be doing up and down there if not participating in the slave trade? All right. Moving forward. Garvey said, look to the east. When a black king is crowned, our liberation will be at hand. He said that in 1920. in 1930, his Imperial Majesty, Haile Selassie I, was crowned King of Kings and Lords of Lords. All right? I'm not going to say that's prophecy, but prophecy. So now, in 1948, Haile Selassie then grants the Ethiopian World Federation the Shashamane land grant. Now, when Garvey said our liberation will be at hand, liberation generally means we get our own land. And that's what just happened right there. Okay? Mind you, Garvey, Selassie said it was to be comprised of the black peoples of the world who desired to repatriate. The black peoples of the world. So again, in another legal document, you see us, everybody knows who we're talking about. Remember, the plain usage rule, all right? Black peoples of the world. Everybody know who we're talking about. Moving forward, brothers at my new university, New Black Knowledge University. I'm a student, a proud student. Go to them, check it out. They approved the land of the blacks in America in the 1600s. Go check them out. Hit them out on Patreon, Cash App. Hit them up. They OGs of the history thing. Trust me. So I keep seeing this type of meme right here. What is this black nonsense you speak? Know you not nationality and jurisprudence. And you might notice I've been emphasizing certain words as I've been speaking. It's this type of thing that I'm in response to. Throughout this video, hopefully, Black and Negro has been well established as a people, a race, and a nation with treaties, settlements, kingdoms, and a motherland. Remember, some nations were always stateless nations, and some were always dominated by another nation, okay? And some just are at this point. Hello. Don't forget about nomadic nations, okay? Because nomadic nations don't necessarily stay in one spot anyway, and they've always been acknowledged as a nation due to the fact that they acknowledge themselves as a nation due to their sovereignty. Remember that word again. So jurisprudence, juris and prudentia, law knowledge, the study and knowledge of the theory of law. So I'm looking at this thing and I wanted to make sure I responded to every single piece of it. I wanted to make sure you know that we are a nation. Yes, Black is a nation because we signed it into law August 13th, 1920. That's a legal document. That's jurisprudence. One last thing on the people telling us that we have to stop calling ourselves Black. Consider this. If everyone that called themselves Black or Negro was actually considered civilly dead in law, meaning civil terra mortuus, remember we did that way in the beginning, that would mean none of us could ever win a court case. Nobody Black or Negro could legally own property. Black or Negro people could not possess a license of any kind. Okay? You wouldn't be able to graduate from a school. You wouldn't be able to literally walk across the street, right? Because it's the right of way. Hello. Okay? So you have to understand that, you know, sovereign people don't bend to that. So if we're going to claim sovereignty, if we're going to claim that we're going to stand up on Black law, we have to make sure that we, first of all, have jurisprudence and are able to stand on our Black Negro nation, okay? And then help build it. Because we've witnessed throughout history how we've fallen due to weak links. We need to be, we're only going to be as strong as our weakest link. So we need to make sure that we strengthen each other anytime we see each other showing that we're not on our square, so to speak. So when you see these things, you are not Black. Black is a color. So what's your nationality? Listen, when people ask you what's your nationality, tell them you're Black. And if they got any other questions after that, link up to this video and we'll talk. We will hash it out. So I say to the elder, Baba Dr. John Henrik Clarke, Ashe, Dr. Khallid Muhammad. And with that, I'd like to leave you with the motto of this grand association: one God, one aim, one destiny. And as always, race first.
Righteous by nature. We are other than righteous by circumstance. It is 400 years in specific and 6,000 years in general that has put us in this condition. 400 years in specific and 6,000 years in general that causes us to break black law today. You cannot defend white law and not offend and break black law at the same time. Remember, your law is not what is written on paper, but it is the very nature in which God has created you. And I'm happy that they asked me to say a word, at least, on black law.